Wednesday, September 26, 2018 at 6:30. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't trip on that. I keep whacking it.
Before we get started, just a few notes. This meeting is being taped by TCTV, local channel 8. If anyone else is taping, please raise your hand to let us know for the record. For the record, I see nobody. Comments are allowed during the public comment section of the meeting for the benefit of those watching at home and the board. And anyone wishing to comment at that time will need to come to the front table here and sit with a microphone in order to speak. Anyone wishing to be acknowledged by the board should raise their hand and wait to be called. On this keeps the meeting orderly and allows the business at hand to be completed. Times will be kept to a minimum, so our regular business may be attended to in a timely manner. Thank you for your cooperation. At this time, any public comments? I see none. Meeting minutes for 9/12/2018.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as written for 9/12/18.
I have a motion, have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you.
If
Any
you
other
have one
discussion?
question,
You have a question, okay.
let me get to it. Ba, 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 ba. Down in the board and staff member comments section and reports, it says discussion regarding the. That's all. So I don't know if that just shouldn't be there or if there was more that
look at that. It was
should
a
be
good
there.
Oh my gosh, I read that too and I just kept right on reading.
Yeah, I just avoided it.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should table these minutes. Julie, would you like to retract your motion and I'll retract my second?
So we're gonna table these meeting minutes until the next board meeting?
Yep.
I can do that.
So you're going to retract your motion?
Yes.
I retract my second.
Okay. So these will be tabled to the next business meeting. Good catch, Doug.
Wow. I just kept reading. Maybe because I just kept reading.
New business, appointments and introductions. Mr. Tenzini.
I have none for you this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Presentation FY19 Q4 report, community service team.
Just for the record, that'll be the fourth quarter of 2018, Mr. Chairman.
I got you.
Hi. You have the full report of all the departments in front of you. I just wanted to point out a few highlights from each.
Sure.
What?
The Templeton Cultural Council, which is chaired by Pat Gale. She attended a meeting in Fitchburg back in June with neighboring towns to do some collaboration. Some of the events that they funded in the last quarter included a concert at the Templeton Senior Center, a trip to the Theater at the Mount, and a tea at the Historical Society. If you remember, Sheila took over as the VSO in March, so she has been she got caught up that last quarter in some filing and organizing. Over $19,000 was expended on Chapter 115 claims, and she attended some trainings in June. For TCTV, there was a big transition in the fourth quarter from being overseen by the advisory committee to being in town oversight. They've managed to get all the meetings recorded during busy times. They did have to upgrade some of the internet here at Town Hall in order to stream more effectively. The program schedule for Channel 8 was reconfigured. The YouTube channel was revamped. And Steve met with the accounting department to reconcile their enterprise funds so that they were both on the same page. As far as the library, we finally finished the electrical and cabling work to move forward with C.W. Mars. We collaborated with Montechusett Opportunity Council for a kids program to kick off our summer reading. We had the 5 extra hours that you gave us last year, so we added a second preschool story time which we identified as a need in the community. So that, both of those concluded in June. And we did a really nice planting event with the Girl Scouts for the garden out front. Over at the Council on Aging, they had a annual health fair, which was very well attended. They had 2 cultural council grant programs, a Marilyn Monroe impersonator and another singer, and they sponsored an art show for Narragansett, which included an open house. And they also added a Zumba exercise class. And Scott over at Rec, he reports that all 3 major softball tournaments were held in April, May, and June, and were very successful with no issues at all. They were successful in closing out the fiscal year 18 budget, and were able to purchase some new equipment to bring things up to code and make sure everything is safe going forward. So, like I said, the full report is here, but I thought I'd just point out a few things.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wait,
Wait, we're not done yet.
sorry, Jackie, you don't get to get away that quickly. So how do you feel in this new role?
I love it. I told Carter and Adam the other day, I feel like I've gone to more meetings in the last 2 months than I've gone to in my whole life. But I'm learning, I'm digging in and learning about all the work that these other departments do, and I feel like they're happy to have, somebody kind of checking in with them regularly, and feel like it's sort of an avenue to you all. So I'm happy.
Okay. So you feel like you're getting well acclimated, and do you feel like there can be some overlay and overlap between the departments, like, because you're overseeing all of that?
Right.
And you can kind of be that liaison and go-between?
Exactly, and I've already identified some areas that we can collaborate, different departments, and just make things work more smoothly, offer more.
I'm happy.
Yeah, me too.
I'm happy. Great report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to add? Mr. Tanzini?
Just if there's any questions, if you could get those to us in the next 2 weeks, we'd be happy to follow up.
Sure.
I just want to comment on her next report. She's not aware of this yet.
You're about to learn.
And here it comes.
I worked with the public safety team today, and in addition to their reports growing out of the retreat, we will be asking each of them to comment on the status of their goals, so that you'll have an update quarterly. If it's a live scan fingerprint, if it's a buy this, if it's a develop this program, you'll get a report quarterly on what the status of that is. I think that's a happy medium between trying to do it weekly and not having it at all.
Right.
And so if that's agreeable, we'll try that for a while, because starting next month, all the teams will be in front of you, not all in one night. We'll have 3 of them at your first business meeting, and then finance, and I forget which the other team is, at the second meeting of your month.
I think Jackie has done, as far as CW Mars and wanting to do the extra story hour, and has been trying to keep us up to date with that in your weekly report, and helping out with that. And I see your goals, and I see the excitement that builds as you're saying, we're getting closer to this and we're getting closer to this. And I rely heavily on the weekly reports to see not only what's happening, but what's coming. So I can appreciate what you give to us. So thank you very much, Jackie.
I appreciate that, thank you.
And you are preparing yourself for the future, I would assume as well, because as a director, you'll be oversight of all the financial directorates as financial responsibilities as well. So when the budget season starts coming up, Carter's going to be looking towards you, then you can be looking towards your people.
Right.
And that's a huge undertaking, which you haven't even started yet, and I know that. And I don't want to scare you off.
Jackie.
But unfortunately, that's part of the process of management, and this is how it works. And this is the best way for Templeton to actually move forward.
Right.
Is to have it done this way.
Right.
And just hold on.
Sure.
And learn from the people around you, and learn from Carter.
Yeah.
Learn from the man behind you, because he's really intelligent. So really, take it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
But thanks. Great job.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jackie.
And Carter, that was 18, right? You said?
Yes, it's FY '18, fourth quarter.
April to June.
Nomination of the DPW director?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask Robert Sochik, did I get it right this time? To join us at the table here. Bob is currently the foreman, is Westminster. He worked with other municipalities before that and managed his family business, in-site work, excavating, and the like for a number of years. We put him before you tonight, seeking your confirmation for him as our DPW director for a term of 3 years, and we have given you a draft agreement for some terms of his employment, so we would be seeking not only your confirmation of my appointment, but approval for me to sign the employment agreement as well. And if you don't mind, I'd like Bob to speak for a few moments about his background and why he'd like to join us here in Templeton.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Hi, Bob.
Santini.
Hi,
Good day, sir.
my name's Robert Sozik. I lived in Lunenburg all my life, and we had a family excavating business for over 54 years. I was playing on equipment and stuff when I was 5 years old, and that's all I'd done all my life is working with heavy machinery, job sites, new houses, developments, roadways, drainage, water, sewer, runoffs. It's just in my blood. I had a great teacher, my father, rest his soul. So I enjoy this type of work, and I've done it all my life, and I'm looking forward to working for the town of Templeton and using my knowledge and my abilities and my skills and leadership, and finish out my time here.
Okay. Great. Anyone else have anything to add? We can ask questions, of course, right?
Yeah, just, keep in mind that you can ask, don't ask list that we circulated the last time
Mm-hmm.
to y'all, of course, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just am wondering, are you familiar with our fleet at Templeton Highway?
Yeah, I heard hearsay. I haven't actually had hands
It's
on
old.
it. It's old.
trying
It's-
to
I'm
renew.
Sure we'll look through it, evaluate it, and get by the best we can, but I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of work ahead on replacing equipment and or refurbishing them or what. I mean, I would have to see them, so.
Right.
I know it's not all new stuff, so it's a challenge I'm willing to take.
That's great, thank you.
Doug?
Yeah. Have you done equipment negotiations? I mean, having an excavation business, you have to buy equipment from time to time. Have you negotiated different pieces?
Yeah, we'll try different ones and makes, models, whatever, if it's a heavy piece of equipment or a truck, spec them out. If we have good luck with them, we usually stay with that one particular truck. There's many out there, the technology, everything's changing now, the emissions, and so there's a lot to stay up on them, and you can buy a cheap truck, it'd be like buying a Craftsman lawnmower, last you 5-10 years, or you can buy a good truck and try to get 15 or 20 out of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Great.
Diane, you got something?
No, I don't have any questions at all.
Great.
I think he explained a
Excellent.
lot.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I don't have any questions for
okay.
you at all. I'm sorry.
When I
Let me get the
was,
frog out of my throat.
when I was checking references, I spoke with one of them. I said, well, he seems like kind of a quiet, soft-spoken guy, to which the person I was talking with said, that's not the Bob I know. So perhaps this is the
We need that.
This is the interview mode, and we'll see a different mode, but
Great.
Diane
Okay.
can be soft-spoken as
Couple
well
more?
at times.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah.
Who
Have
can be
you worked-
soft-spoken at times?
Oh, sure, now you're not.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you worked with road management software? Are you familiar with what it does,
A
how it
little
works?
bit, and I've talked to Carter with my weak spots. I'll be going to classes and road scholarship from Bay State, and I'm willing to take that and I love to learn, so.
And have you worked with only sand salt mix, or have you worked
No,
with
we,
just salt only?
Pretty much sand, salt, calcium. Of course, it depends on the temperatures, what to put down, when to use it. Try not to waste the material. Try to use it wisely and make the right call. So you've got a lot of liability out there, so you want to try to make your roads safe as possible for rush hours, schools, and stuff like that. So it's very important to pay attention to what material you use. I'm not sure what you guys are using. I'm sure it's sand, salt, or calcium, but I'm familiar with all that.
Okay,
You good?
all right, yep.
Entertain a motion at this point.
I move to confirm the appointment of Robert Sosek.
Yeah.
Is that how you say that?
Yeah, you
Okay, I
did.
just want to get it right. For the position of DPW Director and to authorize the town administrator to sign the employment agreement.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any other further discussion? I see none. Joy?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Congratulations, sir.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
Congratulations.
I'll be looking forward to
And
working
that
with
would be your
all of you.
wife in the back?
Yeah, it's my lovely wife.
That was
Polly.
fantastic. She came.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
You wanted to shake your hand?
You're all set there, sir.
Do you want us to shake it? Because if you don't, we won't.
Welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, welcome.
Doug, what are you doing? You don't even know your own strength here.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm just teasing you.
Boot Drive, Knights of Columbus, Mr. Andrews, come on up.
As you know, we do our annual boot drive, usually the first or second Sunday of October. We're doing it the 6th of October this year.
Mhm.
And we're gonna use the same as we have in the past. Those certain roads that we use, we will not do the furthest road down, the back road,
Thank you,
that you asked
George.
us last year not to use.
It's for safety
Oh, absolutely, I know
reasons.
that, and
Okay,
this is what we told our friends. As we have our regular meeting this coming Tuesday night, we'll have
Okay.
them sign their papers that they're gonna be there and get them back to
Okay.
the office after the boot drive. Cause
Okay.
some show up after while we're doing the boot drive and offer to help, so,
okay.
and it's, and
Okay.
that's all.
How many years has this been, George?
I'm anticipating about 8 or 10.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
it has been
yeah.
a while.
There's usually 4 of us or 5 of us at one time, and then we swap off at 10 o'clock. So
Okay.
it's from 8 to noon.
Okay.
8 to 12.
Thank you.
And you have the
Hold on one second, George.
appropriate vests and,
Yeah, we do our best,
Yep,
and we
they
have
always
cones
have.
up there
Yep.
and all that there.
okay?
Yep.
Safety first.
Yep.
Thank you.
I move to
Thanks.
approve the boot drive permit for the Knights of Columbus on Saturday, October 6th from 8 to 12 at the Templeton Common Center, providing they submit signed waivers for each participating member to the Selectman's office on or before October 4th at 4 p.m.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any other discussion? And you're aware they're gonna sign that paperwork?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Next year.
Yes.
Diane?
yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck to you with Booth Drive.
Thank you.
The award for the DPW bids? Mr. Tanzini?
We had a variety of products that went out
Yes, I
to
saw that.
bid. I think we can probably do a little better job in presenting that to you next year. We'll talk to staff about how to do that. I did have a question or two from the body. But I think that the motion will answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so mine are in a different order than the motions, so. Let's see, technologies, heater.
Most of these were state, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Most of these bids were state?
You know, we need to do a better job at using the state bid. These were not state bid prices we're using.
Totally agree.
And I've spoken with the staff, and encourage them to go to the state bid first, if for no other reason the amount of time and effort that they spent putting some of this out to bid.
Yeah, this is weeks of work.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So if you don't mind, I'm just gonna get to the motions.
yes.
And they're not, I'm gonna do it in the order that our packet
Okay.
came in.
Sure.
So I'm gonna be doing some jumping around here. I move to award the bid to Highway Safety Systems for a contract not to exceed $15,000. And this does not reflect
Mhm.
what is in the motions. I'm
Right.
sorry, but we didn't get everything.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna do one at a time?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any other discussion?
The highway safety, so
I see none.
we have it
Julie?
sorted.
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Next one?
I move to award the bid to East River Energy
Yep.
to, Carter, at the variable rate of 2.2693 per gallon, rack plus 0.1744 markup per gallon.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
So even though East River has a slightly lower price, they're in Guilford, Connecticut. So if we have a building that runs out of oil, we're gonna have to wait how many ever hours it takes to get from there, rather than waiting 15 minutes to get it from Hoodola. I mean, it is less, but,
They use local vendors. We used to have them a few years back, and they have local vendors that work for them that deliver the oil.
They actually broker it through local.
Like
Okay.
Share City and other oil
Okay.
companies.
all right, so they're a broker, not a,
Mhm.
Actual
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, I don't know how they make money doing it that way, but
Yeah.
that's their approach to it, Doug.
okay.
Any other discussion? See none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
For .87 octane gas, I move to award the bid to Dennis Burke at the variable rate of 2.0845 per gallon, rack plus .3088 markup per gallon.
A motion or a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? See none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And for diesel fuel, I move to award the bid to Dennis Burke at the variable rate of 2.2845 per gallon, rack plus .3088 markup per gallon.
I have a motion of a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? I see none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And for bulk salt, I move to award the bid to Champion Salt at the rate of 59.99 per ton.
I have a motion of a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? I see none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And for road reclamation, I move to award the bid to All States Asphalt in the total bid amount not to exceed $53,500.
Okay, have a motion of a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
This is the contractor we got this year too, right?
It
All
is.
states?
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I see none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And for heater cleaning and maintenance, I move to award the bid to RNC Technologies in an amount not to exceed $5,200.
Can I have a motion on a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? I see none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes,
She votes yes as well.
thank you for doing all those out.
Sure.
I wouldn't have known what to say.
Moving on to F, agreement regarding Central Mass Disaster Animal Response Team.
I would ask the Emergency Management Director to come up
I was gonna
and
ask the
address
same
the
thing.
matter, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
We haven't seen him on camera for a while.
No, just like,
Not since,
There's a
not
reason
since
for
the
that.
great Stony Bridge. Yeah, right, Richard?
just identify yourself. Just identify yourself.
Richard Curtis, I am the Emergency Management Director here in town.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. This was given to me by the CMDART people,
Mhm.
the Central Mass Disaster Animal Rescue Team. They've been trying to coordinate with us, between us and the fire department, for a while now. The fire department right now is holding one of their trailers, storing one of their trailers filled with animal sheltering equipment. It's down in their parking lot in Bolivarville. And I believe they're gonna supply the fire department with some sort of a canopy or something to fit their trailer in as well. So it's gonna benefit them having it there. They take care of their own stuff. We don't have to touch it, really. So, anyway, they came up with this memorandum of understanding. All in all, it's not too bad, but I do have a couple of issues that, I mean, if they hold us to it, there's no way we can do this. 3C and D. C is, if applicable or available, the parties agree to exchange and reasonably cooperate in obtaining information about funding and grant source opportunities that may support the efforts of the parties in providing animal disaster response services under this agreement, and applying for and securing reimbursement for operational expenses incurred by the municipality through local, state, federal, or other sources. This agreement shall not prevent any party from individually applying for and obtaining any funding or assistance. She has already reached out to me before our last grant, which I just turned in and got approved just recently. They wanted us to use that grant for them, and I flatly said no. I mean, we don't have enough money to be using those grants for that kind of training right now. So, and I haven't seen any other grants that are really available. Of course, I don't have the time to sit there and dig into the grant systems, but,
And you don't do that when you're in Florida?
no. Shuffleboard.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So Rich and I had a lengthy conversation today, and we went through, I wanted to go through this paragraph by paragraph with him, and it was a really good conversation as it's only since I've become a select woman that I have not been able to serve on the CERT team, which saddens me, but I serve here. I said, I hope, I would like to open up just here that it would behoove us to consider offering the CERT team maybe a little bit more in their budget this year. But it also means that the Office of Emergency Management needs to, we have still the mentality, because we've been in crisis after crisis after crisis, that it's level fund or cut, level fund or cut. Well, perhaps that you kind of need to get that out of your head and realize that you have to ask for more money, but you also have to justify why those monies would be needed, and this is a perfect example. There are people who, there are elderly, there are younger people, if we did have any kind of disaster, that would not leave their homes because they won't leave their pets behind. They're their loved ones. And they're not gonna leave them out in the cold, and they're not gonna leave them in a flood, and they're not going to. So I just wanted to kind of already put that out in the open before budget season starts, and for you to maybe like change your mindset a little bit and just realize that you can ask for more. Maybe you won't get a full yes, you know, but maybe you won't get a full no. So.
This is a very good group, technically. They've got strange ways, but it's a good group. It would definitely help us because we are mandated now when we do sheltering in town that we have to have consideration for the animals. So my plans were already to use separate classrooms in the school to put animal cages in. I've got, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 animal cages in the basement of our building.
And I've offered
Right now.
2 more.
Right, and Diane's gonna give us a couple more. We'll always take donations of those, because we're gonna
So
have to
if
have
the
money.
public knows that you need things like that, then if anybody has anything that they could donate, then that would be wonderful.
Yeah. And the, all in all, this is a pretty good memorandum, but there's, there's just a couple of things that I'm a little nervous about, because if they want us to volunteer more of our time, we're already
You're taxed.
stressed.
Right.
We don't need to be doing a lot of extra. Our volunteers will definitely go for the additional training, but they're not gonna be wanting to do it all the time either. So,
Well, yeah, number D, I'm still kind of concerned with the encouragement agree to participate in regular practice drills and mock operations. Yeah,
They've
meet regularly.
already, Rich, could you explain, because we did already talk
what
about
happens
this?
is, what they do is, every time they hold a class, these people, anybody that attends the class becomes one of their members. So, right now, I wanna say I've got like between 3 and 5, I don't remember, it was done about 2 years ago. But they went out of town to a training, and they're on their list right now for Templeton.
Okay,
And we've been trying to set something up for this fall for them to come in and do another training, so we'll have even more. So that'll give
Page is that on?
Templeton a lot of people that kind of know what to do with animals
There's a different
when we get them.
thing.
Okay.
That includes everything from
That says there's 2
dogs,
trainings.
cats, birds,
I don't know.
I
reptiles.
saw it.
I mean, they go
Horses?
through everything.
Hold on for a second,
So,
John.
horses
Right
too?
here.
well, they're working with the fire department on large animal rescue. We technically aren't going to get into that,
Okay,
but the fire department has helped with a couple of horses in the
Yeah.
past.
yes, like
Recent
even last
past.
year, yeah,
So they're working with them to get that kind of training.
excellent.
So, Rich, you and I talked about on page 2, section 3A, that some of your people have already gone to an introduction to animal disaster services, and you're working on basic emergency animal sheltering, and then after that, they would be able to go to the mock drills, and,
Right.
but until that time, they can't do that.
Right.
So just know that, John.
Okay,
They can't, again, Rich and I went through this paragraph by paragraph, so that I feel more comfortable with this than
Okay.
I did when I first looked at
And
it.
they're looking for, like, if we do have a sheltering issue where there's gonna be a reimbursement from FEMA,
they want a piece of
they're
it.
looking for us to put in for their expenses,
I understand.
which doesn't normally, when we put in for expenses for the town, it doesn't normally go back to each,
No,
it usually goes back into the general fund.
that's right.
So I don't know how that would work. I mean, I'll guarantee you I'll put in for their money.
For your expense, absolutely.
But as far as I'm concerned, that's volunteer time.
Absolutely.
I just got that. You're funny.
I'll be more than glad to put in for their money, but they probably won't get it.
Okay.
So,
So the other section that you had concerns with was 3D, is that correct, or
yeah, 3D was,
you had 3C is the one that
About,
you
you know,
originally?
the
It
training.
makes it sound like they want us to constantly be going to these trainings and meetings and whatnot.
He's
It's,
just saying they're already taxed.
we can't do
It's
that.
all
So
volunteer.
it's
We'll
three
go
C
to
and
some of them.
three D.
We'll go to some of them, but we're not gonna be going to all their meetings.
Yeah, so 3C and 3D are the two sections.
Right, those are the two sections I'm a little concerned over, but again, it says
It's a
if
good
applicable or available,
Yeah.
Right,
So-
they might not always be
So
available.
it's covered under the contract.
It's
basically.
covered.
technically.
Yep,
Technically, it's covered.
Yeah.
It's covered.
If some of your members, your volunteers want to show up, that's great.
They show up.
If
I'm
they
more
don't have
concern-
the time, that's okay too.
I'm more
It's not
concerned
gonna
about the
hurt
grants,
us.
though. The
You're
grants,
more concerned with the grant
because
situation.
she literally wants us to use our grants to get their training for us.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
And I just can't do that. We need the, you know,
that's not available then.
we've been very good about getting the equipment we've got at no cost to the town through these grants that we get. We get 2 a year. They're not very big, so, you know,
So
we
there's
just kinda,
there's no fee to us for their training, or if we have a disaster, for their services, for their volunteers to come and do
No.
stuff. So we pay no fee to them for anything.
they want us to pay for their training, but,
But they're not charging you a
They're-
fee for training.
well, they're not going to right now, but they probably will in the future.
Then we don't, I mean, it doesn't say that the training is required.
Right.
And we just say
So
we
we're
can't do
okay.
it right now.
Right.
We don't have the resources, we don't have the funding.
So we're
The
covered.
last letter to
Right.
me was
Basically
that
covered
she
right
would
now
do it
under
for the
this.
CERT team for free. So, we'll
Okay.
get
So
some
I-
training in there.
Again, I think we need to understand, if we agree and sign this agreement, what is the cost liability that we're on the hook for?
I,
If applicable
Yeah.
or available. It's, the CERT team is all volunteer. So if 50 volunteers said, I can't come, you can't make them. They're volunteers. You can't make them. You can't.
Mr. Tanzini,
Your cost liability is zero.
Zero.
Correct.
Your trust, respect, and desire to improve the common weal is what's this
That
costs
is
you.
what at stake.
And as Winchendon sent us their dive team to look at our dam bridge on Stony Bridge, we paid zero, but the trust, mutual respect,
Right.
and Commonweal says, if we get a call from them, we're gonna do something. They're not gonna charge us for the training, but if we learn of something that they might not be aware of, we are supposed to pass that information along.
understood.
We are stressed for dollars, but in return for having this agreement in place that helps us meet some of our obligations, and the potential to have some folks come in from outside, if we say, listen, no, we're not giving you $2,500 of our grant this year, but we'll get you 250 or something, so that they know there's some good faith behind this. And it's all built on respect and reasonableness and the mutual cooperation and the benefits that grow out of that.
So
That's
that's,
the cost that I view.
right.
Okay.
So that what I was saying is, but the CERT team, we've been giving them the same amount of money for as long as I've,
Well, the CERT team gets nothing.
the Office of
Emergen-
Emergency
emer- yeah,
Management.
emergency management
I'm
gets-
sorry, the Office of Emergency Management has been getting the same amount of money for as long as I've believed that I've been on this board. Is that $1,000?
Well, actually, it went drastically down from when I first started.
Right, so what I'm saying is, we need to possibly remedy that situation so that we can have respect and integrity, and, you know, that maybe there is some other way to, because this is a program that's needed
Understood.
and required.
I get it. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you so
Rich.
much, Rich. I appreciate it.
Thank
I'll
you.
entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve the agreement between the town and the Central Mass Disaster Animal Response Team as written, and authorize the chairman to sign the same.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Amendment to number 3 on the financial management policies regarding the budget.
Mr. Chairman, this grew out of a workshop, I think 2 workshops ago, in preparation for the board retreat. And I'm going to ask, Mr. Morrison would like to speak to this based upon our earlier conversation.
Yeah. So, I think we should table this. I'm not real comfortable with the language. I mean, I hope to live another 25, 30 years, and in my lifetime, we're not going to be able to live up to the letter of these words. So I think we need to have more discussion on what's the correct way to phrase what our budgeting methodology is going to be. So I had started putting together some thoughts, but I never got them forwarded on to Carter. I don't agree with the words we have in this amendment.
Could you explain a little bit more,
What
Doug?
words,
For
Doug?
my,
So it says, that, that the budget is going to only include, where we have sufficient and appropriate staffing, professional development, material and equipment, and facilities that are well-maintained and operating within their useful life. The reality of it is, in my lifetime, we're not going to be able to fully fund every department. We're not going to be able to fully staff every department. We're not going to have, buildings in perfect condition. And I just think this particular wording creates an atmosphere of, it's
That we can't maintain.
that we can't maintain. I mean, it's setting an expectation of the budget that we're not going to be able to accomplish.
That makes sense. Thanks for that
I,
explanation.
I see that, Doug, but I don't agree with you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
So, for example, the police department's been understaffed for the last
Mm-hmm.
5-6 years.
Longer,
Yeah,
since
so
'01 and '02.
Should we be funding it? This is saying that we're going to fund the things that the budget is going to provide where we have sufficient and appropriate staffing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have
Proposed.
sufficient
Proposed with
staffing.
sufficient. Proposed is the word.
Mhm.
Proposed. I mean, that doesn't mean it has to happen. It's proposed that it has to, that it should be, that we should be doing this. But if we can't do it based on our financial, economic growth, then it's proposed. And obviously we can't. We have to work within our means as well. But it doesn't negate the fact that how the budget gets balanced. I mean, is it level funded like we always talked about? Or do we want to, liquefy all assets and then spread that out to all the departments to make sure at least they operate effectively and
So
manage
then why don't we
effectively?
say effectively instead of,
I mean, we can.
Proposed.
We can use the
Covers
word.
us,
I mean,
though.
proposed covers us, but we can, I mean, did Mike write this?
No.
Okay.
This comes out of the board retreat of 16.
Right.
And then the parallel piece to this was, for lack of a better term, the rationing exercise. If you only have so many dollars, what's the order in which you would distribute those dollars?
That's right.
I know that people weren't wholly comfortable with that.
No, I don't
I know they weren't comfortable with it last year. We eliminated it this year with the idea being if we could somehow codify a sense of service level, how we were going to approach the budget, then we could have it in here and we didn't have to revisit that every year. I understand what Doug's concern is. I don't need truly an answer on this issue till the latter part of November. And I think you don't want to get set up in a situation where you're trapped, where somebody says, geez, the latest study says you should have 1.5 officers per 1,000. That means 12. You've only proposed 9, and therefore you're not following your own policy. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
And, you
I
know,
mean,
so,
But then it says, not to interrupt you, Mr. Tenzini, but then it says right underneath it, expenditures shall be realistically budgeted and estimated revenues shall be considerably budgeted to allow for unanticipated events. The balanced budget presented shall include the estimates and assumptions behind the revenue estimates, utilizing and preparing the proposal. I'm like, it's a proposal. I mean, it's a proposed budget based on revenues and estimate revenues that we're projecting. I mean, we can play the word game. I mean, let's table it till the next meeting. And Doug, if you could provide some insight, that would be great. Because I'll
Well,
do
I
some
do,
research myself.
I do agree with Doug too, in facilities and equipment that are well-maintained. Well, could we please take a look at the DPW? Oh, I'm sure you'd be happy to, Mr. Sozak, and well-maintained, we can't, that's definitely not something that we can accomplish even in the next,
but it's also aspirational.
Right.
So it may be
Right.
as
I
simple
understand that.
as, you know, I don't.
can we just maybe, I think it's probably like 1 or 2 words that need to be changed. It's not, Doug, you're not saying it's a lot, are you?
Again, I don't know. I don't know
doesn't
what
like
the
it.
right combination of words is at this point.
It's hard when you look at something like the first time and you just go, yeah, approved, moving
I
on.
mean, We briefly
Can we
talked about
just-
it at the workshop,
We
but,
did.
again, it
wasn't
was just a
brief.
brief
It wasn't
conversation,
brief.
and
Can you,
This is actually the third time.
This is the
All
third
due
time.
respect.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
not the third
Mr.
time for me,
Chairman.
but.
it is.
Because we've taken it out of the workshop 1, workshop 2. Again, we didn't do it this year because we said, I understand you're not comfortable doing it this way, but we do need to have some statement about this. What if we put it in here? So again, I have no problem waiting for a while. Be happy to work with
I'll
Doug.
wait for a while. Can we just table it to the next meeting, please?
Well, that tabling would at least put it off. Because of the way our meetings
So
are
that way we're
now,
just,
it might actually be 2 meetings.
why would it be 2 meetings?
Because we only have
projections.
4 business days between when you have a meeting and when we put the
Where
next
is-
packet out.
Right.
I mean, the Wednesday meetings are good. They give you more time. They give us a little less time in the middle
I just
to
don't,
get revisions back out.
I don't want to table that one.
yeah, 'cause I certainly won't have any suggestions until after the weekend. I don't have time. I got other meetings this week and work and,
Are you gonna
So,
work at
can
your
we
real
please
job?
pick
Is
a
it-
date so that it doesn't go on forever? So our next meeting is October 10th, and you're saying that we would have to have everything in by this Thursday? By the 27th? We would have to have it in by the 4th?
Well, in order for us to have it on
Oh.
your agenda the 10th, we have to have it in here settled by basically October 3.
Can you do that, Doug? That's
I mean,
after
I might
this-
have some suggestions, but that doesn't mean that that suggestion is gonna work, or, I mean, Carter may look at it and say, no, well, here's the problem with these words. You know, I mean, again, I don't think it's an overnight process.
And just not to saying we can't do it, but do please understand that our Monday will be spent making sure we're ready for Monday night. And as soon as y'all approve the warrant, our efforts on Tuesday and Wednesday
Yeah, they're all
will
gonna be to do
immediately
with
turn
that.
to trying to prepare the voter guide
Right.
Again,
for the
I'm the only
town,
one that's gonna
for the
provide,
town meeting, so we can
Now,
as a
possibly
problem.
include the advisory committee recommendations as well, we hope. Let me just say, it is very important that this is, whatever the wording is, it is one that the board can be united around, so that when I'm, or the next TA is preparing the budget, it's, the debate doesn't have to start about, well, what was your guiding light in preparing that budget?
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know that this has been discussed on several occasions. Well, I shouldn't say several, I should
Yeah,
say
there's
2 to
several.
3.
Three.
So tonight, after reviewing this, which was in our packet for a while now, I have to make a motion to accept the amendment number 3 to financial management policy and budget setting. I like the wording. I'm comfortable with it. We've been hammering it out for a while. I think that Templeton's heading in the right direction. I think that we need to look at the big picture and not look at some of the stuff that has happened or is currently happening with some of our deteriorating buildings or managements or whatever. I am really comfortable with this, so I make a motion that we accept and move on.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'm gonna second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion concerning the proposed amendment 3 to the financial policy management drafted 9/19 of 2018 and policy statement regarding basis of annual budget? I see none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
No.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Amendment to personnel policy, special merit awards.
Mr. Chairman, this we discussed a couple of workshops earlier this year.
Mhm.
The idea was to develop 3 categories in which we could make annually a special merit award to our employees who we believe have gone above and beyond in one of 3 categories. I sent you an amendment last night, and as a result of a department head's comments this morning, we did put a second revision in your books. The first is communications. Displays a commitment to assisting the public and transparency in government, including, but not limited to, improving and/or devising new ways to communicate information within the organization and to the public at large. So I don't want to tip my hand of who I think deserves that this year, and the town administrator is not at all eligible for this. But let me say that a employee had come to me and said, you know, I was on the Cape this summer, and I happened to, feel kind of masochistic, so I turned on public access TV to watch local government. And they had the town administrator talking with this. Maybe that's a good idea to try something like that. An employee who suggests something like that would be worthy of this kind of award. The second is efficiency. And the final wording that we've presented to you now displays a commitment to ensuring we operate proficiently and efficiently by stepping up and stepping in to undertake nominal cross-training in mission-critical functions, exhibits a willingness to float as needed, and/or suggests ideas that result in ease of processing and savings of time, material, storage requirements, or the like. So let's say that an employee were to come in and say, you know, this is the way we're doing this right now. I think we could change, instead of, printing all these letters and folding them and mailing them as first-class mail, there's another way to do this that I've seen. I'd really like to kind of run with the idea, get you some cost estimates, see what that would save. That would be the type of employee that would merit an award in this category. Pinnacle of excellence, there could be only one award in this category. Displays a willingness to make extraordinary efforts in the ongoing improvement of the organization, assisting other staff members or departments to complete new or ongoing assignments, and often requires the person to stretch to learn new computer programs methodologies, or processes. So those would be the three categories. They would get a certificate, they would get a $250 award. They would be nominated either as a result of the annual performance review process. So when I met with each of the department heads, I talked with them about, did they think one of their employees deserved this, or I would mention an employee that I thought might be worthy, to see if they, disputed that or thought I was off base. And failing that, we could open it up to, nominations from the community at large. And this would give me the authority to withhold an award in one or more categories. So there could be 1 to 3 awards. There could be 2 in one category. As long as there's only one pinnacle of excellence, we think that if you're gonna use that phrase, there should really only be one person.
That's right.
At the peak that year. If this meets your approval, just so you'll know, we do have the employee recognition luncheon next week that I'm putting on, and it would be our intent to make those awards at that time, and we would invite you all, as I mentioned the other night, to join us. Happy to answer any questions, talk about how the wording came about. The staff that I've spoken with, the department heads, seem to think this will be a nice thing to do. It's not a lot of money, but it is recognition.
I agree.
And it feeds into what the Collins Center was saying, we've been talking about, is your employees do so much good for this community. It's important that we get out the good word.
I like
Well
it.
said. Doug, you got something?
No, I like it. That's great.
Diane?
I like it.
Excellent. Sue?
I like it.
Okay.
I move to approve the amendment to the personnel policy regarding special merit awards as written.
A motion or a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
I've got a question for you. What's the eligibility? If you said it, could you just repeat that?
I did not say it, but it's for all full and part-time employees.
Full and part-time?
Full and part-time, paid employees, the compensated employees.
It's a great incentive program. Do you think opening it up to your volunteers would also act as an incentive to get more people to government?
I think that, we've talked about doing something on the volunteers.
Or
So,
adding a 4th award or something like
uh,
that?
what we did in one community was we had an annual luncheon for our volunteers and for those who attended. We had 4 or 5 certificates to local restaurants, and simply, drew those out and awarded those, honored them in the annual report. I think there's great merit in honoring the volunteers, but I would like to
Right, when I mean
keep the
volunteers,
groups
like people that
separate.
volunteer to be on a committee or
Oh,
otherwise.
Absolutely, I just think there's merit in keeping them
Separate.
separate.
Maybe add a 4th for your volunteers, like if someone on the Veterans Advisory Board was not eligible for those 3 categories, but embodied one of those attributes from those, so you had something where you could encapsulate. I think it's I agree with the board already, just the feeling with it. But as an incentive, you definitely wanna engage your pool of volunteers.
Understood.
There's 8,000 people out there, you've got a pool, could serve as an incentive.
And
Would the cap be 750? I'm moving on to another question. Would the cap be at 750, or you said there could be multiple in the,
the cap is 3 awards,
okay, so it's 750
at
given the
250,
award cycle.
so the cap is 750 annually.
Okay.
And there can be only one person in one of those categories. So you could have one in each of the 3 categories, you could have 2 in one category, and
one
one in
pinnacle.
the restricted category.
Mhm.
And I see merit in recognizing the volunteers in some way,
Yeah.
and that's something
We've
we've
talked
had on
about
the
that.
table for, trying to move forward.
And I think that would be I would think that would be a whole separate policy, separating the full-time paid employees versus the, volunteered, staff that we have.
We could add it to this, but I would want to try to avoid doing it by the seat of our pants here at the table.
Oh, yeah,
this
no, no,
moment,
that's not,
Because that
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
gets us in trouble.
no, that's
Any
definitely,
incentives you can to get
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
to come in and contribute. And then just the final thing, you called it the efficiency award, maybe,
We did.
how about innovation? Efficiency sounds.
Cross-training isn't really very innovative.
Cross-training? Sure it is.
Everybody's
If
doing
you're-
it.
If you're innovating, that was just a suggestion.
I-
Efficiency is,
I don't have a problem with changing it. I tend to think of innovation as something new and different, a little bit outside the box,
that's what it sounded like.
as opposed to something that's tried and true and
Right.
elsewhere. It's up to the board.
Right, exactly.
I
As long
like
as-
Mike's word.
As long as I know before Wednesday when we do the certificates.
Well, I think if we're gonna
I
change something, it needs to be
N
done
O-
now, so that we can approve it, and,
Give that to Mike,
you know,
please.
I just happen to like Mike's
Could you
word,
give this to Mike, please?
what was your word again, Mike?
innovation.
Innovation. Innovation award. Thank you.
But I mean, that's just, I just like that word. But I see where Carter's coming from too, as far as efficiency. It does kind of, you know, it sounds real to what the wording is, but you have, you know, communications and then efficiency, and then pinnacle of excellence. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
I
that's
have no
all.
pride of authorship on this one, as long as I know what it.
The rest
it
of the
is.
board, could they weigh in, please? I don't have the updated wording because I didn't print it out, so I don't know
It should be in our
exactly what
flyleaf,
it says.
Huh?
It's in her flyleaf, isn't it?
Yeah, I gave it to her before she came in.
What do you think, Julie?
Oh, thank you, Mike.
It's right under.
I mean, I think you can flip a coin, and the way you read it and the way
I like
each individual person is gonna
interpret it,
interpret it is gonna be totally different.
Mhm.
So
but there.
there's a motion on the floor with a second on the actual document in front of us
Okay.
with the wording as is, correct?
There is?
So maybe
Any
we
other,
should
any
just
other
vote
discussion?
on that now, or?
Does anybody have any desire to change the word? If that's what I'm asking.
Not at this time, we already have a motion
At
and a
this time,
second.
I guess I don't until we do the motion.
We have a motion and a
Well,
second.
the motion, if
Is
you
already
had a
done.
desire
I
to
don't want
change
to
it, I
amend
would
it.
change my motion.
Then I'm good.
Okay,
I mean, no offense to
okay,
Mike.
we're good.
but
So let's
Yes.
just,
No offense, I like both words, I do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking what. if
Everyone's gonna read them
someone's gonna take
differently.
a certificate and put it on their wall. I mean,
Right.
someone's gonna have pride in it, and maybe they go to another,
I'm an
another
innovator.
municipality. Huh?
I'm an innovator.
Right, or innovation award, you know, just think of what it looks like on the wall.
Thanks, Mike, I appreciate it. Okay, motion and second, any other discussion? I see none, Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thanks for your comments, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to lose sight of the comment on the volunteers,
Yes,
and even on the thought on innovation, we could talk about that a little bit. But I'm wondering if there might be a member of the board that would be interested in talking with me, and perhaps Michael could join us on that, in discussing what we might do for our volunteers to recognize them on a more regular basis, because we truly don't do anything
Mr.
on a
Chairman.
regular, ongoing basis to
yes, Julie.
recognize these people.
I would be willing to take that on.
Okay, I have,
Join me in?
Miss
Michael?
Richard. Miss Richard would love to help you with that.
Perfect. I'll set something up. Our efforts are really concentrated on the fall town meeting, but as soon as we get past that, before we get deep into budget, we'll chat on this then.
Great,
Sounds good.
Thank you.
awesome.
In the Realtor world, we have what is called a Good Neighbor Award.
Is that, oh, could you sell houses?
No.
Come on, I was just throwing you
It's
funny.
not, it has nothing to do with
Or
selling
is it a
houses.
State
It has
Farm thing?
everything to do with what you do within your community.
I understand, because you do a lot,
That's why, because
Right.
we do a lot in our communities.
right.
Just a thought.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be funny, I'm just,
Sorry, did my face make a little twitch?
Thanks. Let's move it on to budget transfers regarding non-union wage increases. Mr. Tenzini.
Oh, I put that one.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we put into the budget an amount of money that it would take to sustain annually raises to be awarded to non-union personnel.
Yep.
Last year, we did that basically by sitting down with each department head. This year, we created a form and we asked them to use that form to evaluate all of their non-union personnel. And I then spent 2 days with every department head reviewing those and doing the department heads' reviews.
Okay.
We have given you a chart which shows percentage-wise from the highest to the lowest. We do have some employees who unfortunately did not receive an efficiency rating that their department heads felt would allow them to recommend a raise.
Well, that's
These
good.
are not straight across the board COLAs. Now, this is not a formal merit system because this is the first year, I'm told, that you have actually done employee evaluations and had a form to do it with.
That's correct.
It's correct since I've been here.
So the raises are based upon 3 criteria. One, they take into recognition the performance evaluation for the employee. 2, they attempt to maintain internal equity. I can't have, let's say, the assistant in an office paid more than the department head, obviously. So we have to look at, are we trying to maintain within the organization some level of equity? Third, though we do not have the money for it in the short term, and frankly, we don't have a detailed study to tell us exactly where we are in the marketplace, are we trying to make some progress towards meeting the market? So the raises range from 1.25% at the lowest to 5% at the highest. The top 3 are really anomalies created by the fact of the change in the minimum wage statute that you said you wanted to continue to follow when we met a month or so ago. So the amounts transferred will cover these raises for the balance of the fiscal year and allow the payment of the several merit awards that you've just approved.
Okay. And the feedback you got back from the staff were on the new form this year? How they,
For the most part, I think the feedback was positive. There was one that thought that perhaps we could go with a slimmer version. They don't see their part-time staff the same way we do here in Town Hall, let's say at the library, at the Council on Aging. They're more intermittent, so they don't necessarily observe all of the different categories in the performance evaluation. And there was one department that thought that the categories, as we go to move them to all the personnel, union as well, thought that the questions perhaps didn't capture their profession, some of the attributes of their profession, as perhaps it should. So what I've told all the department heads is, give me a couple weeks, we'll sit down, come up with other forms you might like, other ideas you might like, and as long as we don't end up with a multitude of forms, if we have 2 or 3, and at the end of the day, they give us a kind of a composite that's equal, I'm open to that, but that'll be a couple couple weeks.
Okay.
Next year, the other thing we talked with them about is, your personnel policy calls for doing them upon everybody's anniversary.
Right.
You frankly don't
No.
have, the capacity to do that tracking system. And so if we have the non-union and the union, do we wanna do them all at the same? Do we wanna break them apart? Certainly we wanna do them, a little bit earlier next year, but you do wanna keep the personnel evaluation, and when they see it in their paycheck, as close together as possible. Because if the evaluation's done out here, and they don't see it in the paycheck for 4 months,
Hmm.
you know, the impact of the evaluation's meaningless. They don't see the results. There's a complete disconnect.
Right. Okay. Did all departments turn in their evaluations?
One department did not, and therefore you will not see any increases proposed for that department, but all general fund departments did turn in their evaluations.
What, okay.
And what department did not turn in their
The
evaluations?
sewer department did not turn in their evaluations.
Okay, thank you.
We're certainly open to receiving them in the future and to start the raises at the appropriate time. But one thing that I've been very strong on since I've been here is to not trying to get into retroactive pay.
Oh, we don't,
Because
yeah.
of the challenges of calculating it all and the burdens on the accounting office. So these will start, if you approve these transfers here tonight, this will start with the pay week that starts Sunday, and then they would receive it in their first paycheck following, so it would be the 12th of October when they'll see the money. So it's a fairly tight window between when we got the evals done and when they see the impact.
So it would actually be effective, they'd see the funds on 10/12, but it would be effective when? 10/1?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Well, that would be a day clock. What's the actual,
What is that, September 30?
sorry, let me look. September 30.
September 30.
30. I need a day clock. I move to approve the budget transfers regarding the non-union wage increases as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I think I should be on Jeopardy. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
might, I have a few questions on this. I know that there's a small window here, so I'm wondering, is it possible to table this?
No. Well, I mean,
Or do
obviously-
we really need to look at it because you just finished evaluations on these employees?
Please remember, you're voting on the transfers, not the raises.
The
'cause you've given me
transfers.
the authority to,
Do
do
that,
that.
right.
This is already,
The
Um,
transfers themselves, though.
if you can,
well, this is
if-
public.
If there's a
so-
question, no, this is,
Oh, this is not public yet.
no. It's not public till you approve it, because
Okay,
it constitutes personnel evaluation material
okay.
Right.
at this point. If there's a question that I can answer, I'd certainly like to try to do
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure I can have that question immediately, but okay, I'm just asking.
Okay, I still have a motion. Do I have a second?
Right, so if we're just approving the transfer, then I would second that motion.
That's what I thought. Thanks, Doug. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Mike, you got anything?
No, I'm not taking notes.
Understood. Okay, I see none. Julie?
Abstain.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well on the transfers. After this meeting, Mike, can I see you after this meeting, Mike? And there's no old business. Any members, board or staff member comments or reports at this time? Mr. Tanzini?
Mr. Chairman, I use this opportunity each meeting to point out that we have a citizen at large vacancy on the Capital Planning Committee. We have an upcoming vacancy on the Historical Commission. They do important work, and in assisting our youth cover college costs. Our Scholarship Committee does important work as well, and it has a pending vacancy. So I would encourage anyone that might be interested in those, reach out to us. We can talk to you, put you in touch with current members, give you a sense of what's involved, how much time. I also just want to remind anyone in the community who may not have seen the advertisement. We do have the public meeting on Monday night. I believe that was posted for 6 p.m.
I think so, yeah.
Which will have a presentation from the Green Communities Program on the stretch code. We'll have a brief presentation on the several bylaws, adoption of statute, and special legislation to try to give us the tools to address repairs to private ways, make betterments. We'll be doing
And that was the October 1 date? Is that what you
yes,
said?
that's Monday evening. We'll be doing a bit of a presentation on the town common. We'll touch upon the other warrant articles. We will need that warrant to be approved Monday night and signed. And we will send it to the, tomorrow, we'll be sending the draft out to the advisory committee and encouraging them to attend if they have the time available.
Okay.
And we would look forward to any members of the community that can join us as well.
Great.
Thank you.
And as usual, all the job postings are board policy, board and committee vacancies are all posted online. So please look at the website, check it out, templeton1.org.
Correction, Mr. Chairman, the meeting Monday night is at 6:30 p.m.
Here?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
6:30 p.m. Great. Anybody else have any staff member comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
Actually, for a while now, I've been wondering if this board, as we sit here, is actually making a difference. In my opinion, I came to the conclusion that it really is. Is it frustrating to wonder if you voted the right way on issues, if you're doing the right thing by the people of Templeton? Absolutely. I thank our town administrator for the selectmen retreat last week to review the warrants for a fall town meeting, and to Holly for feeding us. It was nice to have strong and at times aggressive dialogue that truly reminded me of the reason I ran for a second term here in town. Is Templeton unique in its financial struggles? Not really. Is Templeton unique in the people that volunteer their time and energy for the better of the town? Absolutely. May I suggest to our voters that when they attend fall town meeting, which I have faith most will, that they review every warrant and consider the priority to be safety first. We as a community should unite in prioritizing safety. My 3 choices, in order: Highway Department. We all know why. The fleet looks horrible. We really need to look at safety. Police Department, absolutely require another officer. It's crucial for our community safety. And last, but certainly not least, Fire Department. Your support as voters of the town of Templeton is crucial to the safety-first approach for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, I appreciate it. Well said. Anyone else have anything else to add? We don't need to go into executive session, correct?
I have nothing for you
I
this
have
evening,
to-
Mr. Chairman.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second, thank you. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you all for joining us.